Sommie's Trip to the Orchard. Written by Just Thinking Drabbles. Read by Arashi. Sommie woke up to the warmth of the summer sun and stretched, yawning as he did. This was his favorite season for many reasons, but being able to take a nice nap in the heat of the daylight was his favorite. It was almost like laying in Alir's bed, or being snuggled in their arms. It was nice and cozy, and he loved it. Yet every time he woke up, his tummy would grumble, just as it was doing now, so he set out to go and find a snack. Luckily, the Somnial was always full of delicious food that he could enjoy, from the amazing meals that were prepared in the cafe, to the plentiful orchard full of different kinds of fruit, and even to the pond where everyone would fish. Sommie loved the pond, but he often fell in one trying to nab a fish, so many of the members of the army always kept him away from it. It was a shame, truly, but there wasn't too much he could do about it. Seeing that the orchard was his second favorite place in the Somnial, aside from Alir's room, and the best place to get a snack, with all the fruit that fell on the ground, Sommie set out to find some of his favorite fruit. He ran as quickly as he could, which wasn't fast at all, but he made it there all the same, and that was all that mattered to him. Once he arrived, he yipped happily at all of the delicious fruit lying on the ground, most notably oranges, which he hurriedly scurried over to. Without a second wasted, he quickly took one of them and ate it whole, chewing almost too quickly in his excitement. He looked around the orchard to make sure no one else was around to keep him from eating as many as he wanted, and then, when not finding anyone, continued munching on the oranges that laid about. Yet, as he started on his third orange, he heard the sound of sniffling coming from somewhere close by. He tilted his head, curious as to what it might be, and ate up the orange before following the sound. Moving past the tall trees that stood in his way, he noticed someone with blue hair sitting beneath one of the nearby trees. Despite them hiding their face within their hands, Sommie knew exactly who it was. He had seen Prince Alcryst come here many times before, sometimes to shed tears as he was now, and other times to simply get away from everything and rest in the shade. He wasn't sure why the young man was crying, but it made him sad to hear him so upset. He wanted nothing more than to cheer him up, so he waddled closer to him, pushing an orange with him along the way, in case the small snack might help bring a smile to his face. Though he would be lying if he didn't admit, for a brief second, he thought about eating it instead. He rolled the fruit towards the prince, and nudged it into his leg, before giving him a small nuzzle. Alcryst lifted his head, his teary eyes wide at first, before landing on Sommie, and instantly softening. He sighed, and wiped a few tears from his eyes. "Oh, Sommie, I didn't know you were here. Did I disturb you? What am I saying? Of course I did. I'll go right away." Before he could hurry away, though, Sommie nudged the orange into his leg again, and yipped, hoping it would be enough to convey what he wanted. If Alcryst ran off, there would be no chance that he could catch up after all. Alcryst's eyes lowered to the orange, and then back up at Sommie, a curious glimmer in his teary eyes. "Is this for me?" He yipped again. A small smile formed on the prince's face. He relaxed against the tree once more, and carefully took the orange into his hands. "Thank you." Sommie gave another soft yip, and crawled into his lap, as he watched him toss the orange in one hand, then to the other. Was he going to eat it? If he did, then perhaps he might share some with him. Sommie certainly hoped he would. But he did not try to eat the orange as he had hoped, merely held it in his palm, and stared at it with a blank look on his face. One of his hands did start to pet him, though, which was almost as nice as getting to eat the orange. Almost. "You're really sweet, you know, but you shouldn't be with me. I'm such a failure, and I'll only end up disappointing you, just as surely as I have everyone else." Sommie looked up at him in confusion. He wasn't sure what he meant by any of it, but he knew it wasn't true. He always enjoyed being around Alcryst. He wasn't as loud as many people in the army, and he gave great cuddles. Plus, he always gave Sommie snacks whenever he begged for them. "I'm not like Diamant. He's so great at everything, and well, Me. I'm nothing in comparison to my brother. And it's my fault. No matter how much I try, I'm just not strong enough." The tears began to fall down his cheeks once again, and the orange that he had been cradling in his hands fell to the ground as he tried desperately to wipe the tears away. Sommie wasn't sure what he could do to make him feel better, since he wasn't able to speak, but even so, did his best. He gave a small yip and began to nuzzle him, hoping that perhaps the closeness might bring him some comfort. Alcryst only cried harder, and pulled Sommie closer. That was all right with him, though, since being in his arms was so warm, and the young prince always smelled nice. He almost drifted to sleep before Alcryst's tears finally subsided, and when the prince pulled away, he gave Sommie a pat against his head. "Thank you for staying. I feel so lost, but having you around makes me feel a little calmer." Sommie yipped again and licked his cheek, making Alcryst giggle. "Want to come with me to the cafe? Maybe I could sneak you some scraps under the table." With one last excited lick to his face, Sommie crawled out of his lap and began to waddle towards the cafe, with Alcryst following close behind.